The massive Zelkarian warship Void Sovereign drifted through the dark space near the edge of known territory. Its hull stretched over 2 miles long, covered in thick armor plating that gleamed under the light of distant stars. Inside the ship's command center, Fleet Commander Zixthera studied the sensor displays with growing interest. "Commander, we have detected an unknown vessel approaching from the outer rim," reported the sensor officer, his voice carrying the typical Zelkarian accent that sounded like grinding metal. "The ship appears to be of unknown design." Zixthera moved closer to the main display screen. His reptilian features showed curiosity as he examined the readings. The Zelkarian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They knew every ship design, every species, every threat. Nothing moved through space without their knowledge. "Show me the vessel," he commanded. The main screen flickered and displayed an image of a strange ship. It was much smaller than any Zelkarian warship, perhaps only 300 feet long. Its design looked smooth and curved, unlike the angular shapes of Empire vessels. Strange blue lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that made no sense to Zelkarian eyes. "Have we seen this design before?" Zixthera asked his intelligence officer. "No, Commander. The ship does not match any known species in our database. The hull composition appears to be some form of advanced metal alloy we cannot identify from this distance." Zixthera felt a small thrill of excitement. It had been decades since they encountered anything truly new. Most species they met were primitive, using basic rocket technology or simple fusion drives. This vessel, however, showed clear signs of advanced engineering. Open communication channels. Let us see what these creatures have to say for themselves. Meanwhile, aboard the human vessel U.S. Defiant, Admiral Kyle Morrison stood on the bridge watching the massive alien ship on his own display screens. The ship was enormous, easily 50 times larger than his own vessel. Its design looked like it was built for war, with weapon ports visible along its entire length. "That's a big one," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her position at the tactical station. "I'm reading energy signatures that suggest hundreds of weapon systems." "Any response to our peaceful contact signals?" Morrison asked. "Yeah. Nothing yet, sir. They seem to be scanning us pretty thoroughly, though." Morrison nodded. The EU's Defiant was humanity's first deep space exploration vessel designed to make contact with alien civilizations. They had been traveling for months through unexplored space, hoping to find intelligent life. They had found it, and it looked like it might not be friendly. "Keep our shields at maximum power, but do not charge weapons," Morrison ordered. "We want to appear peaceful, but prepared." Chief Engineer Ben Tucker looked up from his console. "Sir, their scanning beams are trying to penetrate our quantum shields. The technology they're using is pretty advanced, but our shields are holding steady." Back on the Void Sovereign, the Zelkarian crew was growing frustrated. Their most powerful sensors could not get clear readings on the small vessel. Every time they tried to scan deeper, their beams seemed to bounce off some kind of energy barrier. "Commander, the alien vessel appears to have some form of defensive shielding we have not encountered before," reported the science officer. "Our scans are being deflected." "Impossible," Zixthera growled. "No species has shield technology that can resist our sensors. Increase scanning power to maximum." The Zelkarians pushed their sensors to full strength, sending massive energy beams toward the human ship. On the Defiant, alarms began to sound as the alien scanning became more aggressive. "Sir, they're really pushing hard with those scans," Tucker reported. "It feels almost like they're trying to force their way through our shields." Morrison frowned. The alien behavior was becoming hostile. In human diplomatic protocol, such aggressive scanning would be considered an act of war. "Preparation. Send them our standard first contact message again," Morrison ordered. "All languages, all frequencies. Make it clear we come in peace." The message went out in dozens of human languages, along with mathematical concepts and peaceful symbols. The transmission reached the Void Sovereign, where Zelkarian translators worked quickly to decode it. "Commander, we have analyzed their transmission," the communications officer reported. "They claim to come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic contact. However, Their language structure is completely unknown. We have never encountered this species before. Zixthera considered this information. Unknown species were supposed to be primitive. The Zelkarian Empire had explored this region of space centuries ago and found nothing but empty worlds and basic life forms.
Ow!
Where had these creatures come from? Charge the forward plasma cannons to half power, Zixthera ordered. Truly peaceful, they will submit to our authority. If not, we will discover the strength of their unknown shields. The massive weapons on the Void Sovereign began to glow with deadly energy. On the Defiant, Amy Carter's tactical displays lit up with warnings. Sir, the alien vessel is charging weapons. Multiple plasma cannons. Looks like enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Morrison felt his heart rate increase. The situation was going bad quickly. The aliens seemed to view any unknown presence as a threat to be eliminated. All hands. Prepare for combat. Raise shields to maximum power and ready all defensive systems. Should we charge our weapons, sir? Carter asked. Not yet. One more attempt at communication first. Morrison activated the ship's main transmitter. He spoke slowly and clearly, hoping the aliens would understand the peaceful tone, even if they could not understand the words. This is Admiral Kyle Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiant. We are explorers from Earth seeking peaceful contact. With other intelligent species, we mean no harm and wish only to establish friendly relations. The message reached the Zelkarian ship, but Commander Zixthera interpreted it differently. The alien vessel had powerful shields that could resist Zelkarian sensors. It had technology his empire had never seen before. Most importantly, it had appeared from a region of space the empire claimed as its own territory. Fire a warning shot across their bow, Zixthera commanded. Show them the power of the Zelkarian Empire. A brilliant beam of plasma energy shot from the Void Sovereign, passing just in front of the human ship. The energy blast would have vaporized any normal vessel, but the humans had built the Defiant to survive in dangerous space. They fired on Carter reported, her voice tight with tension. Morrison made his decision. The aliens had responded to peaceful overtures with weapons fire. Human survival was now the priority. Evasive maneuvers. Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. The Defiant suddenly accelerated with impossible speed, moving in ways that defied everything the Zelkarians knew about physics. The human ship twisted and turned through space as if the laws of momentum meant nothing. How are they moving like that? Demanded Zixthera. No ship can change direction so quickly without crushing its crew. His tactical officer was equally confused. Commander, their acceleration rates should be lethal to any known life form. Yet they show no signs of structural damage. The Defiant continued its impossible dance through space, avoiding the increasingly desperate weapons fire from the Zelkarian ship. Ben Tucker worked frantically at his engineering station, preparing the ship's most advanced system. Quantum drive is ready. For emergency jump, sir, he reported. Do it. Get us out of here. Space around the Defiant began to shimmer and bend. Reality itself seemed to twist as the human ship prepared to vanish. The Zelkarians watched in amazement as their sensors detected energy readings that broke every law of physics they knew. Commander, they are generating some form of space-time distortion. The science officer reported, his voice filled with disbelief. The energy levels required should be impossible for a vessel of that size. A brilliant flash filled the space around the human ship. When the light faded, the EU's Defiant was gone, leaving only empty space and very confused Zelkarian warriors. Zixthera stood in stunned silence, staring at the empty space where the impossible vessel had been. In 3,000 years of Empire expansion, nothing like this had ever happened. A single small ship had appeared from nowhere, resisted their most powerful weapons and sensors, then vanished using technology that seemed to violate the basic laws of the universe. Send an immediate report to High Command, he ordered quietly. Tell them we have encountered something new, something that changes everything. General Patricia Stone stood in the war room deep beneath the Pentagon, staring at the holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked known Zephyrian positions based on the Liberty's sensor data. There were thousands of them. How many ships do they have? asked President Maria Santos, who had flown in from Washington as soon as the Liberty's message reached Earth. Dr. Benjamin Clark, head of the Military Research Division, checked his tablet. Based on Captain Morrison's data, we estimate at least 50,000 warships. Each one is 3 to 5 times larger than our biggest ships. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of ours in most areas. Most areas? General Stone asked, noticing the qualifier. That's the interesting part, Dr. Clark continued. Their weapons and shields are incredibly advanced, but their jump drive technology seems slower than ours. Captain Morrison's ship escaped using our experimental jump drive. The aliens couldn't track where they went. President Santos rubbed her temples. The stress of learning about hostile aliens was showing on her face. So we have one advantage. How do we use it? General Stone had been thinking about this for hours. She had spent 20 years in the Marines before joining the space program. She understood warfare. We can't fight them head-to-head. They have too many ships and too much firepower. But if we can move faster than they can track, maybe we can use hit-and-run tactics. Guerrilla warfare in space? Dr. Clark asked. Exactly. We hit their supply lines, communication posts, isolated ships, make them afraid to travel alone, force them to group their fleets together for protection. This makes them slower and easier to avoid. Captain Morrison and Commander Brooks had arrived on Earth 2 days ago and were now part of the planning team. Morrison spoke up from his seat at the conference table. General, with respect, our weapons barely scratched their shields.
How do
we damage their ships? Dr. Clark smiled for the first time since the meeting began. We don't use their kind of weapons. Our plasma cannons are weak compared to theirs, but we've been working on something different. Kinetic weapons. You mean? Bullets? Brooks asked, sounding confused. Very fast bullets, Dr. Clark replied. Railguns that fire dense metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They might not be as effective against solid objects moving at near light speed. General, Stone nodded approvingly. What else? Missiles with nuclear warheads. Their ships are huge, which makes them easy targets. And we've been developing stealth technology. If they can't see us coming, they can't shoot back. President Santos looked around the room. How long do we have? The Liberty detected their ships near Centauri, about 4 light-years away. If they decide to come after us, it could take them weeks or months, depending on their drive systems. But we have to assume they're already on their way. General Stone stood up and walked to the holographic display. Then we need to move fast. How quickly can we build new ships? The shipyards on Mars and Europa are already working around the clock, Dr. Clark said. We're modifying our existing designs and building new ones. Small, fast ships with powerful engines and the new weapons. We should have the first squadron ready in 6 weeks. Not fast enough, General Stone said grimly. We need to buy more time. Morrison, how well did your ship's sensors work on the alien vessels? Very well, General. We've got detailed scans of their whole composition, weapon locations, shield generators. Why? Because you're going back out there. Not to fight, but to spy. We need to know where they are, how they move, what their weaknesses might be. Can the Liberty handle long-range reconnaissance? Morrison looked at Brooks, who nodded. Yes. General, our jump drive can get us in and out quickly, and our sensors are our best feature. Good. Take a small fleet of scout ships, map their positions, study their tactics. But do not engage unless you have no choice. Can't afford to lose our experienced crews. So over the next few weeks, Earth became a hive of activity. Every shipyard in the solar system worked day and night building new vessels. The designs were completely different from traditional human ships. Instead of large, heavily armored vessels, the new ships were small and fast. They had powerful engines, advanced stealth systems, the new kinetic weapons Dr. Clark had developed. Lieutenant Sophie Martinez stood in the hangar bay of the Mars shipyard, looking at her new fighter craft. It was sleek and black, designed to be nearly invisible to enemy sensors. The cockpit was cramped, but the ship could accelerate faster than anything humans had ever built. Beautiful, isn't she? Said her squadron leader, Captain Ryan Davis. He was standing next to his own ship, a slightly larger vessel designed for command and control. "How fast can it go?" Martinez asked. "Fast enough to outrun anything the aliens have shown us so far. The new engines use a controlled fusion reaction for thrust. They'll pull more Gs than any human pilot has ever experienced." Martinez grinned. She had been a test pilot before joining the military space program. IG forces didn't scare her. "When do we launch?" "As soon as the fleet is ready. General Stone wants us to start hitting their supply convoys. Show them that humans aren't going to hide in our solar system waiting to be conquered." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and his scout fleet were already deep in space. Watching Zephyrian ship movements from a safe distance, they had discovered something important. Alien Empire was huge, but it was also spread thin. Most of their ships traveled alone or in small groups along established trade routes. "They're overconfident," Brooks observed as they watched a single Zephyrian cruiser moving through an asteroid field. "Its ship could destroy our entire fleet, but it's traveling without any escorts." 3,000 years of ruling the galaxy will make you overconfident," Morrison replied. "Send the data back to Earth. General Stone needs to see this." Dr. Alex Chen was monitoring alien communications from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up interesting chatter. They're having trouble with several other species in distant sectors. Rebellions, piracy, trade disputes. The Empire has problems besides us." Morrison smiled grimly. "Good. That means they can't send their entire fleet to Earth. We might actually have a chance." Back on Earth, the first squadron of new warships was ready for launch. General Stone watched from the command center as 12 small, fast vessels prepared to leave Earth orbit. They were called the Defiance class, and they represented humanity's best hope for survival. "Remember," General Stone said over the communication channel, "you're not trying to win battles. You're trying to make the aliens afraid. Hit them where they don't expect it, then disappear before they can respond. Make them think twice about traveling alone." Captain Davis's voice came back clear and confident. "Understood, General. The hunt begins now." As the human fleet jumped away toward their first targets, General Stone felt a mixture of pride and fear. Humanity was about to go to war with an empire that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. The odds were impossible, but humans had never been known for accepting impossible odds. They were about to show the Zephyrian Empire what happened when you threatened the wrong species. Admiral Kethfer was about to learn that enslaving humans was going to be much more difficult than he had imagined. Captain Ryan Davis watched the Zephyrian supply convoy through his ship's sensors. 3 massive cargo vessels moved slowly through space, protected by a single escort cruiser. The alien ships had no idea that 12 human warships were hiding. In the shadow of a nearby asteroid, "All ships, this is Defiance 1. Davis spoke quietly into his communication system. "Target the escort first, Martinez. Take your fighters and hit their engines. The rest of us will focus on the cargo ships." Lieutenant Sophie Martinez felt her heart racing as she prepared for humanity's first real attack against the Empire. Her fighter squadron was spread out among the asteroids, invisible to enemy sensors thanks to their stealth technology. "Copy that. Defiance 1. Fighter squadron ready to engage." Davis counted down from 10. When he reached 0, 12 human ships suddenly appeared from behind the asteroids. The Zephyrian escort captain had less than 5 seconds to react before the attack began. Martinez's fighters moved like deadly insects, swarming around the huge escort cruiser. Their new kinetic weapons fired streams of metal projectiles at incredible speed. The alien shields, designed to stop energy weapons, offered little protection against solid metal moving at near light speed. Direct hits on their engine section, Martinez reported as explosions bloomed across the enemy ship's hull. "They're losing power." The escort cruiser tried to turn its weapons toward the small human fighters, but they were too fast and too small. The massive alien guns couldn't track targets moving so quickly and changing direction so often, Captain. Davis led the larger human ships against the cargo vessels. These ships had only light shields and no real weapons. The kinetic cannons tore through their hulls like paper. "First cargo ship is venting atmosphere," reported one of Davis's captains. "Second target is trying to run." "Don't let it escape," Davis ordered. "We can't afford to let them report what happened here." The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. All 4 Zephyrian ships were either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. The human fleet had taken no damage at all. Collect any useful technology or information from the wrecks, Davis commanded. Then we disappear before their friends come looking. 3 star systems away, Admiral Kethfer stood on his flagship's bridge. Reading the reports that had been flooding in for the past month, supply convoys attacked and destroyed. Communication relays disabled. Patrol ships found drifting in space. With their crews dead or missing, how many ships have we lost? He asked his tactical advisor, Commander Zexthal. 47 vessels in the past 4 weeks, sir, all attacked by unknown ships that appear and disappear without warning. Our survivors describe small, fast vessels that seem invisible to our sensors until they attack. Kethfer's face showed his growing anger and frustration. These must be the humans from the Sol system. But how are they doing this? Their technology appeared primitive when we first encountered them. Perhaps we were wrong about their capabilities, Admiral. Their jump drive technology is clearly superior to ours. And their weapons seem designed specifically to defeat our shields. Impossible, Kethfer snapped. They're insects who barely know how to leave their home planet. They cannot match the technology of the Empire. But deep down, the Admiral was beginning to worry. The attacks were becoming more frequent and more daring. Just yesterday, human ships had attacked a convoy only 2 light years from a major Imperial base. They were getting bolder. Sir, Zexthal said carefully, perhaps we should request reinforcements from the core worlds. These humans appear to be more dangerous than we initially believed. Kethfer's pride wouldn't let him admit that he needed help dealing with a primitive species. Absolutely not. I will not ask for reinforcements to deal with insects. Double. Our patrols send ships in larger groups, force these humans to face superior numbers. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison and his scout ships continued to gather intelligence on Zephyrian movements. They had discovered something very interesting about the alien empire. Look at these communication intercepts, Dr. Chen said from his monitoring station. The Zephyrians are having serious problems in at least 6 different sectors. Rebellions, piracy, trade disputes. They're spread very thin trying to keep control of their territory. Commander Brooks studied the data. It explains why they haven't sent a massive fleet to Earth yet. They can't spare the ships. Morrison nodded. Send this information back to General Stone. She needs to know that our hit-and-run attacks are working better than we hoped. The Empire's starting to crack. Back in the Sol system, the human war effort was expanding rapidly. New ships launched from the shipyards every week. Pilots trained in the new tactics that Captain Davis and Lieutenant Martinez had developed. The entire human military was being rebuilt around the concept of speed and stealth. General Stone stood in the command center, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. Human ships were now operating in dozens of star systems, attacking Imperial targets and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens are starting to change their behavior, reported Captain Morrison during his latest briefing. They're grouping their ships together more, avoiding isolated routes. Our attacks are making them afraid. Good, General Stone replied. Fear makes people make mistakes. What about their response to our attacks? They're trying to hunt us down, but they can't find us. Our stealth technology and jump drives give us too much advantage. They arrive at attack sites hours after we're already gone. Dr. Clark had been developing even more advanced weapons during this time. General, we've completed testing on the new torpedo systems. They're designed to penetrate deep into enemy ships before exploding. Even their largest vessels won't survive a direct hit. How soon can we deploy them? The first batch is ready now. Captain Davis's fleet can start using them immediately. Lieutenant Martinez was leading her fighter squadron on another mission when they first encountered the new Zephyrian tactics. Instead of the usual small convoy, they found a massive fleet of 30 ships moving together. It's Defiance 1, this is. Martinez, we've got a problem. Target is much larger than expected. Recommend we abort and find an easier target. Captain Davis studied the enemy formation through his sensors. The Zephyrians had learned from their losses and were now traveling in groups too large for a single human squadron to attack. Negative, Martinez? We have the new torpedoes. This is exactly the kind of target they're designed for. All ships, prepare for attack pattern Delta. The human ships spread out in a wide formation, approaching the alien fleet from multiple directions. Instead of the quick hit and run attacks they usually made, this time they stayed at long range and fired their new weapons. The torpedoes were small and fast, almost impossible for the large alien ships to target. They struck the Zephyrian vessels and punched deep into their hulls before exploding. The results were devastating. Direct hits on their flagship, Martinez reported with excitement in her voice. It's breaking apart. Multiple kills confirmed, added another pilot. Their formation is collapsing. Within minutes, the large Zephyrian fleet was reduced to burning wreckage. The aliens had learned to group their ships together for protection, but that just made them easier targets for the new human weapons. Admiral Kethver received the news of this latest disaster while meeting with his senior officers. 30 ships destroyed by an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere and strike without warning. Sir Commander Zextal said quietly, "We must face the truth. These humans are not the primitive species we thought they were. They're using tactics and technology we've never encountered before." For the first time since the war began, Admiral Kethver felt a chill of real fear. The humans weren't just random raiders anymore. They were becoming a serious threat to Imperial control. "Send a message to Imperial Command," he said finally. "Tell them we need reinforcements to deal with the human problem. And tell them these humans are more dangerous than any enemy the Empire has faced in centuries." The Phantom Fleet was no longer just an annoyance. It had become humanity's weapon of terror against an empire that had ruled through fear for 3,000 years. Grand Admiral Vothkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Behind him stretched the largest fleet the Zephyrian Empire had assembled in over 500 years. 2,000 warships filled the space around him, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. "Admiral Kethver has failed repeatedly against these humans," Vothkar said to his assembled captains. "The Imperial Council has sent me to end this embarrassment once and for all. We will jump directly to their home system and destroy their planet. No more games." The Grand Admiral was the Empire's greatest military mind. He had crushed dozens of rebellions and conquered entire star systems. The human problem would be solved in a matter of hours. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors show the human home system ahead. Multiple defense platforms and at least 300 ships in defensive positions." Vothkar smiled coldly. 300 ships against 2,000? These humans are either very brave or very stupid. Right. Prepare all weapons. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that defy the Empire. In the Sol system, Admiral Helen Price stood in the command center on Earth, watching the massive alien fleet approach. She had been given command of humanity's entire defense force, and she knew this might be their last battle. "How long until they reach Earth?" she asked her staff. 12 hours at their current speed," replied her tactical advisor. "They're not trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming." Captain Morrison stood beside the Admiral, his face grim. The UES Constitution, humanity's new flagship, was ready for battle, but even he knew the odds were hopeless. "Admiral, our scouts report the enemy fleet is larger than anything we've ever seen. We're outnumbered 6-1, and their ships are much more powerful than ours." Admiral Price had been expecting this day since the war began. "Captain, send word to all ships, we fight here. We make our stand at Earth. If we're going to lose, we'll make sure they remember the cost." Colonel Steve Johnson was coordinating Earth's ground-based defenses from his command post in Colorado. Massive railgun batteries hidden across the planet. "We're prepared to fire at any alien ships that came too close. All defense platforms report ready," he told Admiral Price over the communication link. "If they try to land troops, we'll give them a fight they won't forget." But everyone knew the aliens wouldn't need to land troops. Their ships could destroy Earth cities from orbit. This wasn't going to be a ground battle. Lieutenant Sophie Martinez was with her fighter squadron positioned near Jupiter. The human fleet was spread throughout the solar system, hoping to use hit-and-run tactics even in this desperate situation. "All fighters, this is Martinez. Remember your training. They're fast, they're slow. Use that advantage. Try to fight their big ships head-to-head. Hit their engines, their weapon systems, anything that looks important. Captain Ryan Davis commanded a squadron of the newest human warships. They were equipped with the most advanced weapons Earth could build, but everyone knew it wouldn't be. "Enough. This is it, people," he said to his captains. "Everything we've worked for comes down to the next few hours. Make every shot count." The battle began when the alien fleet reached the outer edge of the solar system, Valthkar had expected the humans to try running like they had in all their previous encounters. Instead, the human fleet charged straight at his ships. "Impossible," Valthkar muttered, as he watched 300 human ships racing toward his massive fleet. "They're committing suicide." But the humans weren't being reckless. They had learned from months of hit-and-run attacks. Martinez's fighters swarmed around the large alien ships like angry bees, too fast and small for the heavy weapons to target effectively. Captain Davis's warships used their superior speed to stay at the edge of weapons range, firing their kinetic cannons and the new torpedoes. The space around Jupiter became a hell of explosions and laser fire. Human ships took terrible losses, but they were making the aliens pay for every victory. For every human ship destroyed, they took down 2 or 3 Zephyrian vessels. "Their tactics are different," Valthkar's tactical officer reported. "They're not trying to run away. They're fighting like they have nothing to lose." "Because they don't," Valthkar replied grimly. "This is their home system. They'll fight to the death." The battle raged for hours as the fleets moved closer to Earth. Human ships continued their desperate attacks, but the numbers were against them. One by one, the defense squadrons were being destroyed. Admiral Price watched the tactical display with growing despair. They had destroyed over 400 alien ships, but the enemy still had 1,500 left. The human fleet was down to less than 100 vessels. Admiral Captain Morrison reported from the Constitution, "We're falling back toward Earth. The outer defense line has collapsed. All remaining ships form up around Earth," Admiral Price ordered. "We make our final stand here." But as the surviving human ships regrouped near Earth, something unexpected happened. Dr. Clark's secret project, hidden in research stations around the sun, finally came online. "Admiral," came an excited voice from the Solar Research Station. "Project Sunfire is ready. All collection arrays are in position and charged." Admiral Price smiled for the first time in hours. "Do it." Around the sun, dozens of hidden platforms began collecting and focusing solar energy. The platforms had been built in secret over the past year, designed to turn Earth's star into a weapon. Now, with the alien fleet bunched together near Earth, they had the perfect target, Grand Admiral. Valthkar was preparing to give the order to destroy Earth when his sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the system. "What is that?" he demanded. Before his tactical officer could answer, beams of concentrated solar energy lanced out from around the sun. Each beam carried the power of a small star, focused into a weapon more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first beam struck Valthkar's flagship dead center. The Eternal Dominion, the pride of the Imperial fleet, simply vaporized. The Grand Admiral and his entire command staff were destroyed in an instant. More beams followed, each one destroying multiple alien ships. The Zephyrian fleet, which had seemed unstoppable moments before, was being torn apart by weapons powered by Earth's own star. "Impossible," gasped the surviving Zephyrian captains as they watched their fleet being annihilated. They turned their star into a weapon. Within minutes, the massive alien fleet was reduced to scattered survivors. Over 1,000 warships had been destroyed by the solar weapon system. The few remaining Zephyrian ships fled in panic, jumping away to wherever they could reach. Admiral Price stood in the command center, hardly believing what she was seeing. The alien fleet that had seemed certain to destroy Earth was gone. Admiral Captain Morrison reported, his voice filled with amazement. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat. We've won." Across the solar system, the surviving human crews cheered. They had faced impossible odds and somehow emerged victorious. Lieutenant Martinez led her few remaining fighters in a victory formation around Earth. "How did we do it?" Colonel Johnson asked from his command post. Dr. Clark's voice came over the communication system from the Solar Research Station. "We did what humans do best. We found a way to turn our disadvantage into an advantage. They had more ships, but we had a star. The news of the victory spread quickly throughout human space. The species that had been given 6 months to live had just destroyed the largest fleet in Zephyrian history. The impossible had happened. But more importantly, the news would spread beyond human space. Every species in the galaxy would hear that the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been defeated by a newcomer species that had only reached the stars a few years ago. The galaxy was about to change forever. Ambassador Kate Williams stood on the observation deck of the human diplomatic ship U.S. Harmony, watching the beautiful blue and green planet of Altair Prime below. 6 months had passed since the great battle at Earth, and news of humanity's impossible victory had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. "Ambassador, the Altarian Chancellor is ready to receive you," said her aide, Lieutenant Commander Paul Hayes. "This will be humanity's first formal diplomatic meeting with a non-human species." Williams nodded, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Everything had changed since Earth's victory over the Zephyrian fleet. Species that had been enslaved by the Empire for centuries were now openly rebelling. The galaxy was in chaos, and everyone wanted to know more about the humans who had done the impossible. "Remember, Paul, we're not here to conquer or rule anyone. We're here to offer friendship and support to species that want to be free." On the planet's surface, Chancellor Yuvtel of the Altarian Republic paced nervously in his office. The Altarians had been paying tribute to the Zephyrian Empire for over 800 years. When news came that the humans had destroyed Grand Admiral Vothkar's fleet, Yuvtel had immediately declared independence. "Chancellor," his advisor said quietly, "the human ambassador is arriving. Are you certain we can trust them? What if they simply want to replace the Zephyrians as our masters?" Yuvtel looked out his window at the city below. For the first time in centuries, Altarian children were playing in the streets without fear of Imperial troops. "We'll find out soon enough. But these humans fought for their freedom instead of surrendering. It tells me something about their character." The meeting between Williams and Yuvtel took place in the Chancellor's office, with both sides nervous but hopeful. Williams spoke first. "Chancellor Yuvtel, humanity offers friendship to the Altarian Republic. We seek trade agreements, cultural exchange, and mutual defense against any who would threaten our freedom. What do you want in return?" Yuvtel asked suspiciously. "The Empire always demanded tribute." Williams smiled. "We want nothing except your friendship. Free people should help each other. We've learned that working together makes everyone stronger." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Captain Ryan Davis was leading a very different kind of mission. Ships were now working with former Imperial slaves to hunt down Zephyrian forces that refused to accept the new reality. "Captain," reported his tactical officer, "we found another Imperial patrol. 3 ships trying to reassert control over the Corvin mining colonies." The Corvins were a warrior species that had been enslaved for over 1,000 years. When they heard about the Empire's defeat at Earth, they had risen in rebellion. Human ships were helping them drive out the remaining Imperial forces. "All ships, attack pattern Theta," Davis ordered. "Remember, we're working with Corvin fighters. Don't hit anything with their markings." The battle was brief, but decisive. The human ships, now battle-tested veterans, easily outmaneuvered the demoralized Zephyrian vessels. Working alongside the fierce Corvin fighters, they destroyed the Imperial patrol in minutes. "This is Corvin battle leader Greshtok," came a growling voice over the communication system. "We thank our human allies for their assistance, a Corvan. People will not forget this debt." Captain Davis smiled. "No debt between free peoples, Greshtok. We fight together because it's right." On a space station in the former Imperial core worlds, Ex-Admiral Kethver sat in a holding cell awaiting trial for war crimes. The Zephyrian Empire was collapsing from within as species after species declared independence. The remaining Imperial leadership was blaming Kethver for starting the war with humanity. Commander Zexthal would remain loyal to his former commander, visited Kethver in his cell. "Admiral, the trial begins tomorrow. The prosecutors are calling for execution." Kethver looked older and more tired than Zexthal had ever seen him. "I underestimated them, old friend. These humans aren't like any species we've encountered before. They don't fight for conquest or glory. They fight for something else. What do you mean, sir? Freedom. Hope. The idea that things can be better than they are. We ruled through fear for 3,000 years, but fear only works until someone shows people there's another way. Dr. Alex Chen was now leading humanity's scientific exchange program, working with alien researchers who had been suppressed under imperial rule. On the research station orbiting New Geneva, he worked alongside scientists from a dozen different species. The Vesian mathematical models are incredible, Chen told his team during their daily briefing. Combined with human computer technology and Altarian navigation systems, we might be able to develop jump drives twice as fast as anything currently in use. The galaxy was experiencing a renaissance of discovery and innovation as species shared. Knowledge that had been hoarded or forbidden under imperial rule. Humans were at the center of it all, not as rulers, but as facilitators and friends. Captain Morrison, now promoted to admiral, was exploring regions of space that had been forbidden. Under imperial law, the UES Constitution led a mixed fleet of human, Altarian, and Corvan ships into the galactic rim. Discovering ancient ruins and lost civilizations, Admiral Dr. Chen reported from his science station, these ruins are over 10,000 years old. This civilization was wiped out long before the Zephyrian Empire even existed. Any idea who they were? The inscriptions suggest they called themselves the Builders. They seem to have been peaceful, focused on art and science rather than war. The Empire probably destroyed all records of them to maintain their claim of eternal dominance. Lieutenant Martinez, now a squadron leader, was training pilots from dozens of different species in human combat tactics. Her mixed squadron of human, Corvan, and Altarian fighters had become legendary throughout the galaxy. Remember, she told her diverse group of students, speed and teamwork beat size and firepower every time. The Empire's ships are powerful, but they're designed for intimidation, not efficiency. Use that against them. A young Corvan pilot raised his clawed hand. Squadron leader Martinez, how did humans learn to fight so effectively? Your species has only been in space for a few years. Martinez thought about the question carefully. We learned because we had to. When someone threatens your home, your family, your freedom, you find strength you didn't know you had. That's not just human nature. That's the nature of any free people. Back on Earth, General Stone was coordinating the new Galactic Freedom Alliance, a loose confederation of species working together to maintain peace and liberty. Her headquarters received reports from across the galaxy daily. General Harade reported the last major Imperial stronghold has surrendered. The war is officially over. General Stone looked at the galactic map on her wall. Red Imperial zones had been replaced by dozens of different colors representing independent worlds and alliances. The galaxy was free, not the war, she corrected. This war is over, but we'll always have to fight to keep our freedom. The moment we stop being vigilant, someone else will try to build another empire. Ambassador Williams returned to Earth after successful diplomatic missions to over 50 different worlds. She brought with her trade agreements, defense pacts, and most importantly, friendships that would last for generations. Humanity has taken its place in the galaxy, she reported to President Santos. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. We've shown the galaxy that there's a better way than empire and slavery. President Santos looked out her office window at the night sky, knowing that among those stars were millions of beings who owed their freedom partly to human courage and sacrifice. What's next for us, Kate? We keep exploring, keep learning, keep helping others find their own paths to freedom. The galaxy is a big place, and there are probably other empires out there. Other species that need to learn that freedom is possible. As the first chapter of human galactic history came to an end, a new one was beginning. The species that had almost been enslaved had instead become the galaxy's greatest hope for a free and peaceful future. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and force for 3 millennia. It had taken humanity less than 1 year to show the galaxy there was a better way. The Age of Empires was ending. The Age of Freedom had begun.